Hey everyone. So happy to see you guys today and so honored to be chatting with my dear friend, and I guess I should call you colleague at this point too,
Yeah.
Jennifer Schwartz. We have known each other, let's see, I hadn't done the math beforehand, but I think it's been over 10 years for sure.
I'm thinking 12. That's what I'm thinking.
I think you're right, about 12.
Yeah.
And we'll go into more of how we met. But if you guys don't know me yet, I'm Karen. I am a 20-year kinesiologist. I work with people that have pain and injury, helping them to get to the root of their chronic pain. And a couple years ago, I started really getting intrigued with how our emotions can actually be stuck in our body and be causing pain. Started to look more into that, and I'll share a little bit more if we have the time. But then at that same time, Jen was kind of starting to delve into that topic. And now she's really an expert and has worked with hundreds and hundreds of clients and has just unbelievable stories that maybe she could share some with us today. But yeah, so that's me. And Jen, do you want to share a little bit about you and maybe how we met each other?
Sure. I'm Jen Schwartz with Balance to Wellness. How did I get started with this? Is that the question? How did I get started with this?
Let's just talk about so people know how we met, because I feel
All
like
right.
that's
Yeah.
even an interesting piece of this all.
Before doing this work, this energy healing, this emotion release work that I do, I was very mainstream in terms of how I was handling my own health and challenges. One of which was a situation where I had two herniated discs, and I initially, it literally took me a month to get out of bed. And I think I had at least two epidurals just to get myself into a wheelchair. It was really, really bad. And I had tried a lot of things. There was certainly talk of surgery. And I'm doing PT, I'm doing all the things as I knew them then. Um, and I was talking to a friend of mine who insisted that I go see Karen. And I thought, I mean, I've done all these things. How is this going to help? And I called her reluctantly. I remember the call. I remember where I was.
I do
And
too.
you're trying to explain, why this is different. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it really was the combination of Karen and ultimately working in yoga
Mhm.
um, that propelled me into this healing. I mean, I was noticing big shifts that I had not felt. I literally was, I mean, on a good day, I was walking with a cane. I mean, it was bad. So that's really how we met, and we became, I think, very close friends since, this evolution and on this journey of seeing things and health and healing in a totally different way.
Yeah, and that word evolution is perfect to describe the journey that you've been on. You probably, I think I told you the other day, like I vote you for the most changed person since I met you that 12 years ago. Jen did, I think she called me, I think you called me like 3 times, and hopefully I was patient with you.
Sure.
And so glad you eventually came in, and it helped you amongst other things. And tell everybody what you did before, like what was your career?
Yeah. So that's why I think my story resonates with a lot of people because, I was a lawyer starting out.
Mhm.
This was this world of energy healing and emotions impacting health. And that just was not at all on my radar. I left law many, many years ago, did some other things in between. And I was on a journey really to heal my kids. And that's how I ended up in this space. Um, nothing, nothing against Western medicine in general. It has its place, but it wasn't helping my kids. I don't know if you want me to go into the details of that, what was going on for them, but it was ultimately,
Sure, if you want to share that.
sure. So we have three kids, grown now. Um, they each had a series of anaphylactic food allergies. And it was tough just dealing with that, just handling life, managing,
Sure.
feeding 3 kids who had all of these food allergies. Our middle daughter at the age of 12 started having allergic type reactions to all but 7 foods. So we literally, her diet consisted of chicken, beef, turkey. Well, she didn't like lamb, probably could have tolerated it. Well-cooked broccoli, cauliflower, rice, potatoes. That was it. The only fruit she could have was if we heated strawberries and blueberries. That was it. Everything else caused throat tightening, thyroid swelling, stomach challenges, itchiness. It was crazy. So I was on a mission to figure out what was going on with her, and no one knew. Couldn't get a diagnosis. That's really all I was searching for, was like, what is this? Ultimately did get a diagnosis called mast cell activation disorder, which really is a condition that your mast cells, part of your immune system, they're revved up. And so there was confusion in terms of seeing these things as problematic as opposed to the benign substances that they should be. So they told me it was lifelong, something that we were just going to have to adjust to. And I refused to believe that. It was just one day, a bite of a cookie, and suddenly she was having all of these crazy reactions. I just didn't believe that.
Yeah.
So I was on a mission to figure her out. It wasn't just the mast cell, it developed into Hashimoto's. She had daily stomach aches. Her asthma was terrible. It just kept, like, it was just, twice a day she was doing maintenance inhaler. Couldn't even do, not the maintenance inhaler. She was doing a rescue inhaler. She was allergic to the maintenance inhaler. So she could only do a rescue inhaler. She was allergic to all sorts of things. And we were starting to explore some really out there things. I mean, really out there. Like, we were on our way to Israel, and I learned about camel milk, and that unpasteurized camel milk would, possibly help her. And I thought, what is happening here? I've really crossed over, to this crazy world, right? But within 24 hours of starting camel milk, that we happened to be on our way to Israel that day when I learned about it, that within 24 hours, her daily stomach aches went away. And it really, these types of things started to open my eyes, like, wow, is that possible? They go, oh, is it placebo? All these things. Well, maybe it's placebo, except that we've seen 20 plus practitioners, and those didn't inspire a placebo effect.
Right.
So we ended up doing some frequency medicine, using frequency machines, addressing underlying toxins in the body. And she started getting relief. And ultimately, we had been on the wait list for something called allergy release technique. It's a modality out of Boston that it was our turn. It was 4 years on this wait list. And I got in touch with them. Okay, it's time for us. When should we schedule our flights for? And they said, we're so sorry, but the founder of ART is now training practitioners to do ART, and they're making their children a priority. So I said, well, how do I become a practitioner? So one thing led to another. I was training to become an ART practitioner, and my daughters were being seen. And ultimately, our youngest, who was anaphylactic to dairy and egg, completely freely eating everything she wants, doesn't even think about it. Our middle, who with mast cell, is nearly completely healed. She's doing great. We're just working on the very last things of her original anaphylactic allergy of sesame. So she
Amazing.
can eat trace amounts a little bit. So, but to answer your question, what about the energy healing? How do we get to there? So allergy release technique uses a frequency machine that neutralizes toxins in the body.
I want to interject just for a second and just share that I'm just so inspired by your tenacity and just your persistence, and just like going to those great lengths for your children, and not stopping. And I know, as someone who always goes for mostly those naturopathic remedies, it's really expensive. It takes a lot of time. It can be super frustrating because usually they are never quick fixes, right? When you go down that route. So sometimes
Can be.
we'll share more
Yeah,
now.
it
See
can be. Yeah.
some other things, but a lot of times, like with the herbs and the things like that, it does take a while for the body to respond and heal and then start getting better. So you've got to have just extreme amounts of patience too, versus, maybe doing some other things. So
Yeah, it's funny. People are like, "Oh, you're such a good mom. Look what, you did all." And I'm like, I mean, we're moms. This is what we do, right? And I just feel like I was blessed with just some intuitive knowing that there was something more, because we're really programmed in terms of our healthcare system that you go to the doctor and you get, your pill and you get better and that's that. But that wasn't working for us. And in fact, in some ways it was making things worse. So something in me just said there is an answer. And and I think if any mom knew that, I had a knowing of that,
right.
I think they would pursue the same, with the same tenacity. So I feel blessed that the answers were out there, and that with it's hard work. There's no question.
Definitely.
A lot of stress. And unfortunately, I would do things differently now, knowing what I know. Because I think it was a extra stress on my kids too,
Yeah.
because of my determination to try to figure it out.
Yeah. Well,
But it worked out.
doing amazing. So
It worked out.
our journey is meant to be our journey sometimes for whatever reason.
A lot of learning.
Yeah.
Lot
So
of
share with us a little bit more about, like, how did the ART then lead into this certification that you have as an emotion code body, and how would you call it? Emotion code practitioner?
Emotion code practitioner, body code practitioner.
Okay.
I really have trained in probably 10, 12 different
How
modalities.
many? Yeah, you're always telling me of a different training that you're doing.
And once you're in this space, there's just so much, and it's really exciting. Any one of the modalities I do is enough in terms of getting results and helping clients, but it's so interesting doing things from different perspectives, different angles. And even though you may get the same result, it's just I can't really stop learning. I love the learning of it.
Absolutely. So my question to you, because I feel like so many people will ask this. I think it's hard for people. I know it's hard for people to conceive. How are you able to check emotions in somebody else's body? Like, how could you ever know what's going on in someone else's body? And then you don't only figure it out, but then you go and you're able to actually clear it out, which is just, we just don't learn this stuff in school. I'm a huge believer in energy, but I think a lot of people are just kind of like, I've never learned this stuff. Like, how does it even work? Is it voodoo? Like, whatever. So share with us, because I know it took you even some time to really kind of get into that place where you were like, I 100% am like a believer.
Yeah. So I think we should back up a little bit, because I think it's important to share that we literally are energy beings. Okay.
Yes.
Everything's energy.
Yes.
And when I say that, I mean, literally, Dr. Bradley Nelson of the Emotion Code, he talks about like magnifying down your hand enough. It's empty space. Our bodies are really empty space. We're frequency by vibration. Einstein, Tesla, these thought leaders, scientists, that they knew, and they talked about it, right? And so, I talk about when you think about someone and they suddenly call, people say coincidence. It's not coincidence. Yes. I call them energetic pings. We're all connected. And when we feel emotions, they literally can become, if not processed out, trapped energies in the body. Mm-hmm. And those trapped energies in the body can contribute to pain, allergies, asthma, all sorts of problems. Yeah. Nearly anything. Okay. Yeah. And so we have this, we all teach it in school. I mean, I hope one day they teach it in school. That is one of my, it's on my list. I really want to start helping to
I'll help you with that
push
one.
that forward. But it's really important that we are able to process out the emotions we're feeling. If we don't, there are ways of tapping into the energy field of the body and identifying those trapped emotions. How do we do that? There are a lot of different ways. So people maybe have heard of Reiki. There's all sorts of different energy healing modalities that get to that. The ones that the emotion code in particular is a favorite. And I learned about it through allergy release technique because it's a small piece of it. And it is identifying trapped emotions that are contributing to this food allergy or that, this asthma situation. Muscle testing is the way that I use to identify these trapped energies. Muscle testing is if you go to, typically it would be a chiropractor who uses this technique. And I'll just demonstrate. You go in and they're testing something. Let's say they want to see how optimized is the thyroid function. Okay. So you would put out your arm. They would usually put one hand on your thyroid and the other hand, they're pushing down on your arm. And they may usually say to themselves, how optimized is the thyroid? And if push down, or is the thyroid optimized? Not how, it has to be yes or no question. Is the thyroid optimized? So they push down on your arm. If your arm goes weak, that's a no. It means it's not aligned, not congruent. The answer is no, it is not aligned. Or strong is a yes. You can test all sorts of things, and there are ways to do this. There's a sway test. I encourage your listeners to look up.
I love that one.
Test.
Yeah.
I mean, I can demonstrate. I'm happy to, but
yeah,
there are different ways of getting yes or no answers from the subconscious. 5% of our brain is conscious. We have 95% of our brain that is, we don't even realize is what's happening under there, right? We know it's there, but these are things that are stuck.
Our intuition, we know. And I think I just want to cut you off for a second. I think that's a good point because I've referred people to you and kind of share what you're going to do. And they're like, well, how does Jen know? And I'm like, Jen doesn't know. She's tapping into you, right? And so I think that's so empowering for people to realize that they do have answers that sometimes are just hard to come to the surface, but with a little help. I mean, do you think people we'll go there in a second. But how do you, so I want you to take us through the process of like, someone's reaching out to you, they want some help with something, maybe just something super basic. How do you though? Because I guess, again, I'm just thinking of what people are going to say, maybe ask these questions. How is it not coming from your maybe like preconceived ideas or judgments or feelings about what might be going on?
Yeah.
How can you clear yourself and tap into them and get a very clear answer?
It's a great question. So let me explain also with the muscle testing that it can be done at a distance. So you're where you are, I'm where I am, and I use a muscle testing technique, and it's going to seem crazy if you're not familiar with this. Everything's energy. We don't have to be in the same space, right?
Right.
But this would be your arm, and this is my tap pushing down on your arm. So I get, this is a yes, this is a no. I get very clear answers. But to answer the question that you just asked is how do we know I'm not influencing the answers, right? So first of all, I do a lot of work, self-work, to make sure that I'm in a good energetic space and show up for my clients from that good high vibe energetic space. But when you muscle test, you're not muscle testing up here, it's coming from here. And I actually, as a part of my technique, not every practitioner is different, I always hold my hand to my heart while I'm doing sessions. And that is a bringing it down to my heart level, because there are times where the brain can get in the way of getting accurate answers. And so I always want to make sure, especially when I'm working with someone that I do know, that I'm getting answers from here and not from here.
I love that.
And when I say from here, this is a heart connection with my client.
Yeah, I love that.
And
I love
it
that.
works brilliant.
Is it ever difficult for you? I mean, you have so many clients, and I know it is not an easy profession. You know, people think, oh, well, you get to do it from anywhere. In that respect, it's so nice for you and convenient. But the tapping in, and I know just from working physically with people, tapping in is like, to me, it's almost a natural state. And I think it calms my system down when I'm with a client. So it feeds me too. But to constantly be in that, like you're doing it all day long, you know, is it?
Yeah, at first, when I was first doing this work, I was feeling really drained at the end of the day. And I could only work on maybe 3, 4 clients in a day because it was just so much. I'm used to it now. I've been doing this about 4.5 years. And I mean, I can still get tired just as anyone does, and depending on where I am energetically and how I slept the night before,
Right.
just normal stuff. But in
Yeah.
terms of being, I'm always digging around in my client's energy is what I say.
Mhm.
It yes, it can be exhausting, but it's so exhilarating at the same time. And so, when you work with someone, and it doesn't always happen overnight or during a session, but when you work with someone, there's oftentimes in a session they're feeling a difference, and so they report that, and
Mhm.
we can talk about the difference between placebo and energy healing, which I think is important to include. But that rejuvenates me in many ways, right? I mean, it's all,
Okay.
I feel like I have such soul filling work that I get to do all day long.
Yes.
And look, there are times when I have a client where there's just no movement, no shifts, and so it's not perfect. And people can be really layered, and we have to work through things. And people will come to me, and sometimes expect that there's going to be an overnight, you know, complete resolution of their issue. And yes, that has happened, but
Mhm.
it doesn't always happen. And can take time, particularly, I talk about where I'm not people's first stop. I mean, they've tried everything.
Yes.
Most people I see
I'm
never,
not people's first stop, and you're certainly after
I'm certainly
probably
not,
3.
right?
Yeah.
And most people, because I am not, it's like I didn't grow up in a crystal wearing family, like because I'm so like what people would say like normal, right? Like I'm like mainstream because of the type of practitioner I am and the history I bring to it. I
Mhm.
didn't grow up in a crystal wearing family. This energy healing was so foreign to me that
Yeah.
for them, my clientele is not typically people who are even open to the possibilities of energy healing. They've
Right.
only reached out because someone told them they should.
Right.
And there are plenty of people who have come kicking and screaming almost about it.
Mhm.
And but they have I've tried everything. What else? Fine, I'm going to try this. So sometimes we have to work on resistance and removing resistance.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I mean, I tell my clients, like, if you are going to come to me as a non-believer, it's probably not going to be the best session because you've got to be open a little bit, right, to the possibility of it. Um,
it's true to some degree, but I don't think it's 100% true. I think
okay.
because our resistance can often be at a conscious level, we don't know that how open the subconscious is.
Mhm.
I had a situation where I think she was about 19, and her horrible asthma, horrible, horrible, horrible asthma. Couldn't even leave her room, wouldn't leave her room, scared to go out in the world. And I did a session. Well, I was through the mom, and she wanted me to work on this, late teenage girl.
Mhm.
And she was super resistant. And she literally came to the Zoom call. I am not exaggerating, rolling her eyes at me. Like I'm like, so it's like, take that most extreme teenagery, girl face.
Yes.
And like, this was this client. And I thought to myself, this was early on, this was first probably 3 to 6 months of practicing this. And I thought to myself, how could this help her? She's so resistant. And I thought, you shouldn't be thinking this as a practitioner, but I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
I'm a human being and I see the resistance. So,
Mhm.
so we do the session, and the next day, mom reaches out. I cannot tell you how much better she is. And for the days after, we haven't had to do a breathing treatment. I mean, it was amazing. And I mean, then certainly, but even still now, I pinch myself. Really? Is that true? Is that possible? I mean,
Right.
but it is. And
It's
when it
life
happens,
changing. You have changed. I mean, I know you can't share personal stories, but some of the things that you've been allowed to share with me, it's just been unbelievable. People that have gone to so many doctors, they've tried everything. They've felt like it's a lifelong, diagnosis for them. And you've made such
at
big
least three of
changes.
my clients had been going. They were like on their way to surgery, and it just went away.
Yeah.
I
I know.
mean,
And people are going to be listening to this and saying, no way. But it's just in, and I've had experience with you too. You've worked on my kids a couple times. It's really amazing. And the one thing that for me, I became a true believer in, and I've been reading these books literally since I was a teenager. But I had a Reiki treatment by someone else, and she, told me when she was doing the session on me, I was closing my eyes, laying in my bed because I just wanted to be focused.
and this was in person or distant?
This was distance. She was in Colorado. I was here in Arizona, right? I forget what I was having issues with, but something was going on. And I literally felt my feet heat up and like feel all tingly. And then I felt she went to another part. And right after the session, I wrote down everything that I felt and like the order of it, because I'm like, I'm just so curious to hear if she actually did the way that I felt it, because it felt so like distinct to me. Like I couldn't deny. It wasn't like I was trying to figure it, make it feel this way. I was like feeling this heat. And we talk on the phone and she's running through what she did to me. And I'm like, holy shit. Because she said, I worked on your feet first. And she was led to do that. It wasn't like she went feet to head, it was like all over the place. And it was so reassuring to me that like this stuff is so real, because there's no way that she would have gone through step by step, like all the things that I felt in that session. And then I think that was before working with you, had sessions with you a couple times. I've done some energy work in other ways too. But I know do you have any other like
Well,
amazing stories you want to share that you're
yeah, I mean, I've lots of stories, but one, just you brought up the distance healing. People, it's hard enough to believe that this works, right?
Yeah,
That I'd be on a Zoom with
right.
someone in a different state, different country sometimes too. Um, and that can work. And then your mind starts to go, well, how much is placebo? Maybe that's all it is, right? So that's hard enough to believe. But when you work on someone and they are like, I work on kids who don't know I'm working on them as long as the parent gives me permission. So they're going about their day. Okay. And I can do the work on them. It's all energy, right?
Mhm.
Who was an ART client.
Yeah.
And we were working through the allergy stuff. Mom asked me if I could do an energy healing. He didn't know about it. An energy healing session to work on more emotional wellness kind of stuff, not, just struggling, like some emotional upset, a little bit of anger, just the heightened emotion stuff. He's young. It wasn't a teenager. Okay. So not typical teenager stuff.
Right.
I did a session on him and I sent his mom a report, and it's what I do. I type out a report, and I said, how's he doing? And she wrote, I think this is a quote, he's staggering. I asked him how he was feeling, and he said, I'm so happy, but I don't know why. Okay. So I said, this is by text. I said, did he know I was working on him? Because I always like to work to rule out placebo, right? It's fun to know if it's
Right.
whether that's playing a role. He didn't know I was working on him. She said he was so happy. Okay. He comes in my office that week because we're still working on the allergies. He comes in my office, and at that, he knew about it at this point. So she, after the fact, told him. So he sits in my chair, and I said, and he, first of all, he walks, he has a skip and a step. And I was like, who is that? So he sits down. I said, hi. He's like, hi. I'm like, how are you? It's like, great. I'm like, awesome. Like, this is just not the kid that's been coming to my office for months working on the allergies. So a little while later, I said, so did your mom tell you I did a session for you? And he said, yeah. How'd you do that? And I was explaining energy and how it goes. And I said, do you think it made a difference? He's like, yeah. I mean, this is the kind of stuff.
It's
And
unbelievable. It makes me like teary-eyed, because what you're doing to help mothers and parents, I mean, there's nothing worse than seeing your child not happy, so just giving that gift, not only the child, but the parent, I mean, that is life changing, life altering stuff. And we know how mental disease, we could talk all about that, right? But it is so prevalent right now. And so your work.
Well, and I often work with families. So it's like once one person's feeling a difference, suddenly, oh, can you work on my husband? Can you, my kid, it becomes a whole family affair. I have several families that
we share energy with our families, right? I mean, there's so many like layers we could go down with this. But yeah, when one person isn't doing well in the family unit, it will affect every single person, and that energetic feeling of that person takes over. I've experienced that many times.
It can, but the flip side is true too, and may even be more true in some ways. It's a topic for a different podcast, but if we can raise our energy, our vibration,
Right.
then we can often influence the vibration of the people around us and in positive ways, right?
Yeah, that too, for sure.
Yeah, but it can go the other way as well.
Yeah. Okay. So just to end here, so I want you to share. You and I had a very interesting experience in my office. So Jen comes to me for my muscle work that I do, and I like when a client's been coming for a long time, I just kind of just know their body. I know their patterns. Obviously, new things can come up. But Jen's been coming for so long. She comes for tune-ups now, and I'm trying to get her strong in this one position with this one muscle, and it just isn't everything I do. I'm not able to get it strong.
It had never happened before, by the way.
I don't think it had.
There had never been a time where it just wasn't getting strong.
Yeah. Yeah. Because well, I don't need to go into that, but, so tell them what you did.
So in that moment, well, I want to back up also and just share that when you do a certain modality or a certain approach to health and wellness, you tend to get pretty, this is what you need to do. It's very narrow in narrow vision, narrow focus. So for me, when I have pain, so that I have this history of crazy back, right? And this is how Karen and I ended up together. But with energy healing, it's my go-to. Pain is a message. I do want to make this point.
Yeah.
We have symptoms, whether it's pain, whatever it is, it's a message from the body that we need to deal with what's underneath the pain. It's not about going and get the Band-Aid medication. Not that we can do that, but that's not what's fixing. That's what's helping us deal.
Right.
We want to get to the message underneath the pain.
Yes.
So I am in this space of what's the message? At this point, when I came to you, I had a little bit of a flare up in my back. my flare-ups over the years, now it's been many, many years, are nothing like my initial, although I did have the one in April of 2020 that energy healing was amazing for.
Yes.
That was crazy. But anyway, when I was muscle testing, what do I need in terms of my own healing of this flare up? I have this menu of all these modalities. I muscle test the menu. I got to no. Usually, not just usually, always there's a yes. Always there's a yes. There's something energetic that's going on. No. So it dawns on me. Is it something physical? Yes. I said, is it go see Karen? Yes. So that's how I even ended up because this was before, I think
That's right, because I hadn't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, this is
Yes,
before
it had been a while since you had come in. And I
So
love
yeah.
getting the text from you saying, I muscle tested and I need to come and see you.
I need to come
That's
see you.
so cool.
So then in that moment when we weren't getting the strength in the one muscle, it dawns on me, I bet it's an emotion.
Mhm.
And so I released the emotion, and without Karen doing a thing more, she just retested. It was strong. And
It
that
was like so strong.
was wild.
I was like, no way, because it was like not activating at all. And I remember it was like the rhomboid and it was not activating. And then she did her thing. She didn't need to tell me. That's the cool thing. Like, you don't even need to tell what it is or whatever. And you don't need to ask your clients to share all this personal information. She clears it for herself. She's like, retest it. I retest it. And it was like solid, 100% strong. And that to me was just another, like, I feel like even when you're a believer, you still have these moments where you're like, oh my gosh, like, because I felt it, I felt it.
Yeah.
And it was just so wild to me to have that experience with you. And it made me, like I've told you, want to go get certified in emotion code, which is still not off the table. Because I could probably use that too, or just send them to you as well. But it was really neat to use it in conjunction with my treatment and see that solid result of that muscle come back.
Totally. And I really, when you say go get certified, I encourage everyone to read The Emotion Code by Dr. Briley
It's a
Nelson.
great book. I love it.
It's real. Those stories are real.
Yeah.
And, do I encourage clients to do other things along the way? Sure. Is meditation something I talk about all day long? Uh-huh. Is EFT tapping? Yes. Calming the anxiety response down? Yes. Is energy healing the answer for all things? It's part of the answer, I would argue, for all things. Is it the entire answer for all things? No. Is it the entire answer for some things? Yeah, definitely. But I feel like we have the opportunity to have tools in our toolbox that we aren't given in any meaningful way. We don't know about them. And I'm working on a documentary on the science of energy healing. And one of the doctors that is part of this is an integrative oncologist, MD, at UCSD. He started their integrative oncology department there. He's brilliant. And he talks about how it's unconscionable that we're not incorporating energy healing as part of any treatment for pretty much anything. His focus is cancer, obviously, but this is very real. It just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't work.
Well, and I love that you bring that up because again, there's so many studies on this. There's the quantum field, there's quantum physics, there's studies on water and the shape that water takes, like you and I have talked about. So this isn't, again, something that hasn't been researched, hasn't been studied. You can look up, NIH articles, studies on this if you want to.
Hundreds of them.
Hundreds of them. Yeah. And it's something that I'm even noticing hospitals are starting, not quite as much as what you're doing, but I'm noticing there's more, like someone just told me that they were offering Reiki at the hospital, and even like essential oils, which obviously I know are more tangible, but I think they're trying, and I think it's coming, and there's more available than there used to be. But yeah, I love your mission to get it out to more people, and you just are just go-getter, and the world will be a better place knowing you and knowing all of this is out
Back
there.
at you. Back at you.
So thank you for all you do. Is there anything else you want to share? If people want to come see you, or I guess they don't need to see you, but if people want to reach out to you, what are some of what are the 5 most common things that someone would get help for from you?
Pain, physical pain would anxiety and pain are my number.
Probably top. Yeah.
And then really anything from there. I mean, digestion, lots of digestion issues. And really I find that it's what are we not digesting in life? And it manifests in this very challenging way for many, many, many people. But it can be allergies. It literally is, I'm trying to think what else, but you name it, I see it, I support people who are on the cancer healing journey. Do I recommend that they rely solely on this? No, I support them where they are. Wherever they're at is where I meet them and help to support their goals, their healing goals. One thing I want to just make sure that I just mention also, just from the distance healing piece, and also the placebo question, how is this different from placebo? I gave you that one example, but energy healing on animals is amazing. They are so receptive. There is no placebo in animals.
Right.
They are also finding there are studies being done now where they'll take cancer cells in a petri dish and a room, let's say 6, 8 meditators around the petri dish meditating, and the cancer is going away. It's amazing. And these are studies that I know of one in particular that I'm hoping it's going to be out in the next year, but it's through Joe Dispenza's work and his advanced workshops, where they're studying markers before the workshop and then the 7 days later at the end. Blood and saliva and stool, they're collecting all of this data, these data points. And Dr. Himal Patel, who's the primary researcher on his studies, he's out of UCSD, he said, it's close to a quote, if not a quote, "I scratched my head that a room full of meditators are having a statistically significant impact on over 60 diseases." They're doing twin studies, meditation in the room with the group, having an impact on a twin that's not in the meditation room, that they're seeing the brain scans. And it's as if the twin outside the room it's as if they're meditating, getting the benefit of the twin inside the room who's doing the meditation. I mean, it's unbelievable what's happening.
And so in the most basic form, when you bring that up, I think this is a great place to leave this. How can a person help themselves or even someone else that's struggling energetically in the most basic form, because energy is real and we can see that? What advice would you give if say someone isn't ready to work with you, but their child is struggling? Is there any tips that you can give for that parent to help them?
Sure. I mean, one thing would be definitely to read the book, and it teaches you how to do it, the emotion code. I mean, literally, you can learn how to do it just reading a book. But I also, as I encourage any client, to shield their energy. We want to be able to protect ourselves from negative energies. Seems crazy to a lot of people, but if everything's energy, we want to make sure that we're doing what we can do to protect ours. We can do that for our own children. So it's visual. I visualize a big bubble of protective white light going up around me. And I say, shields up, or, I set intention for today. Intention setting is so powerful. Intending to protect my energies from any negative energies today. And you can do that for each member of your family. I also like to set intention that any emotion, any negative emotion I feel today, process out with ease. And you can do that for your children. You can literally see them in a healed space, see them as you hope they will be, and feel the gratitude you would feel if that were true, that they were in this great space. it's too much to explain, in this short time, but how powerful that is. You can set intention at the end of the day to cleanse the energies that didn't serve you for that day. But realizing that, even as you're feeling emotions, you're going through something that's frustrating, please allow this frustration to process out. You're at least helping prevent
yeah.
your trappings, right? It's hard.
I recently heard someone say, I'm very nervous. They were going to public speak with like thousands of people. And they were like, I'm going to give it to God. I'm giving my nervousness away, and I'm going to hold whatever, maybe in a religious way you can do it, whatever resonates with you. But yeah, realizing that we are empowered to help others. Like I've been in situations, and this probably will go on to another talk one day, but where I couldn't physically or really emotionally help that person. They just weren't in a space to accept it. But I looked at a picture, and I just literally sent like love and prayers. And they did call me like recent or soon after that. And I did notice a difference, and it was like, maybe not. But it empowers people that feel out of control with situations, that they do have something that they can give. So,
well, and to follow up on that, when you're doing that, it feels better to be doing that as the parent or as the friend or the family member. So that's one thing, which is good for us because we feel better knowing, or at least feeling like we're doing something but what we don't usually realize is that we're not just helping ourselves feel better. It's not just about feeling better because we're sending positive vibes to someone. They're actually receiving.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Real. It's not just it makes me feel better, so I do it, but it's literally having an impact. So too, negative energies, when we have thoughts about people that are not nice thoughts, we have to be mindful about that because it also can be received. So I talk about this idea of being mindful about what we're mindful about. Every thought we think is a frequency. And so we have to walk through life with a healthy respect for that concept. And we can use it to serve the world and our own health and our families and the world, or we can also be contributing to the lowering of the vibration of the world by having those thoughts that are not so positive.
And guys, that takes practice. So don't feel like if you're not perfect at that right away. I'm still working. I've known this stuff for a while, and we are all still human. But I think it's like, if you can catch yourself in the moment, at least after having the thought, maybe think about, delete that thought. I'm going to put this into the universe instead. But yeah, it's a work in practice. I think it's like a muscle that we need to continue to flex to really be able to do this as a habit, because it takes a while, but you feel so much better once you start doing it more consistently.
It's not, we're so programmed to assume that something is going to get bad again, or this is just how my body is just this way.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to be this way, but if we keep running that program, then we're encouraging that same way.
Yeah. I have a feeling we're going to be doing some more of these talks. This has been so much fun. There's so much information I feel like we've already shared with people. And if they want to get a hold of you, I can share that probably wherever I end up putting this, right? Do you have space for new clients? I know you're very busy.
Yeah, so I have a wait list, but I work through the wait list as much as I can, as space is allowed. So certainly I love when people reach out, and I love new clients. So it's balancedtowellness.com is my website.
All right.
You can just go there, and my cell phone is there, and you text me or email me, and I can let you know. And any given day is a different sort of number of people on the wait list, but I do what I can. I have a little bit of a weakness.
That's a testament right there, right, to how much you're helping people.
It's been fun. I say it's really a fun way to walk through life and spend my time. And I say that not as a way, obviously I'm not happy that people are struggling, And it doesn't, that's not fun to me, but the fun part is to watch evolution. I love it. And when you can see someone's energy, when I work on the Zoom, and I can see that happening, and it's unbelievable to watch. And to me, that is the definition of fun.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with
you.
me. It's such an honor to have you as my first interviewee. So I
Honor.
appreciate that. This was so much fun. And yeah, we'll do this again soon, hopefully.